Welcome back to another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have this time is the Yahiko VG-10 Damascus or Japanese handled Gyuto 210mm knife. So this line of knives has a core steel, the core cutting steel of VG-10, full stainless steel. Heat treat is not specified, but it's typically probably around 60, maybe 61 Rockwell. The construction is soft layers of stainless cladding on either side of that hard core steel in a Damascus pattern once it's ground down. And there's also a hammered tsushime, what's known as tsushime or hammered finish on it on the blade flats before you hit the grind down. So it's a real aesthetically interesting blade. It's got a lot of bling to it. It's got a fair amount of polish to it, so that kind of accentuates those layers, and it might be etched a little bit as well down on the flats here, or down on the grind to bring out those layers. The weight is about 131 grams or 4.6 ounces, and these could vary just a little bit from knife to knife. This edge is about 2/16, so it's a little oversized, or 8.5 inches. Overall length of right about 14 inches. The spine thickness is pretty much just 2 millimeters all the way across. So it doesn't have a ton of taper. It does have a pretty nice grind, and it gets pretty thin towards the very edge. So you'll see the tip gets thin. Look, that tip's actually really thin. And then it thins out pretty nicely towards the edge as well. Performance on these is pretty typical of this style of knife, which is fairly similar to some other ones that look similar. So the performance is good. It's easy to care for. It's all stainless. There is hand chiseled kanji on this, including, in the hammering, there's your layers and there's your coarse steel peeking out at the edge. So it's a very interesting blade. Trying to get a good shot here for the beauty shot on the video page. We'll go with that. How about that? The left side of the blade, as you'd be using it, is basically the same without the chiseled kanji on it. So they've done a little bit of polishing and rounding just to the corners of the spine. They've done a little bit of rounding of the choil, although you could put a little more in that if you wanted to, and kind of up the level of fit and finish a little if you felt like doing that. Out of the box edge is pretty sharp. It's got it's not a high grit edge, but it's got a pretty nicely formed bevel on it. And I'd say it's about a 6 out of 10 as far as sharpness goes. It's a fairly stiff blade. The edge on this, I'd say, is kind of a 40-60, so about 40% on this side and 60% on that side in terms of bevel width. So you could easily sharpen it more on the left side to bring it back to kind of a 50-50 if you wanted to. The blade height is about 46.2 millimeters at the heel, and so that gives you lots of room for a pinch grip there, no problem, for cutting board. It's got a fairly wide neck on it, but you still got enough height there. The handle is just nothing fancy. It's an octagonal hoe wood with the buffalo horn ferrule. Looks like the fit and finish is pretty tight on the handle install. The fit and finish on the handle itself, everything's quite smooth. So this particular one, sometimes there'll be a little bit of a feel there, like a jump, but this one's really quite smooth. Handle circumference like 74-75 millimeters at the junction of the two materials. Pretty typical. Balance point, that light handle brings the balance point up about there. So definitely kind of a weight forward balance point because my pinch grip's down there, which is kind of cool because it gives you a little bit of that weight forward cutting power. Got a little sense of some mass to it, even though, heck, it's only 4.6 ounces. So, but really nice blade. Let's take a look at what the cutting edge profile looks like on our board. So fairly roundish, shouldn't say roundest, but fair continuous belly on it. Not a lot of flat to it. You can see the heel just kind of flows into the back. There's not a lot of flat to it, but gets about right in there on a rocking as far as getting the tip dug into the board. You could easily work this tip a little bit, maybe upsweep it when you sharpen it to maybe get just a little more height if you wanted to do that, but it'll rock really nicely. I'd say that's a good strong point of this profile, as well as push-pull, glide cuts, that kind of stuff. Probably pure chopping. You'll have to see what you think. I think you might be a little disappointed on if you're a pure chopper and want a lot of flat. That's not the style of this edge profile. But for most people, unless you're a big chopper, it should work pretty nicely. So Just a nice all-around package, all stainless. They've got a Western handled or Yo version of this. It's basically the exact same blade in a Western full tang package, so you kind of have your choice of flavors, basically the same knife with different handle configuration, different balance point. So this is the Yahiko VG-10 Damascus Gyuto 210mm knife.